Welcome to the Stranger Than Fiction podcast. I'm Chase.
And I'm Adam. On this episode, we are talking about Scientology.
Yeah.
We started to talk a bit about religion in the last episode on near-death experiences, but this week we are taking a look at this relatively new kid on the block from a religion standpoint.
I don't really like this topic.
Why not?
I think it's a load of garbage, first of all.
Oh, man, don't blow your load on what you think about it.
I was just going to say, do you want me to go out on a rant already in the beginning of the episode? Because I can. But I think every ounce of this whole topic just leads to just complete nonsense and rage level 4.
Well, I mean, we'll get into a lot of the details, I'm sure, but if we don't release an episode next week, it's probably because we were killed by Scientologists.
And there's no Scientologists listening to this.
There's only like 5 Scientologists anyway, so.
If there is, please join Patreon.
We will talk about the cause of the week here in a second, but did want to at least let everyone know, if you don't know what Scientology is, it is a body of religious practices and beliefs that started in 1952 by an author, a guy named L. Ron Hubbard. They were accepted by the IRS as a tax-exempt religious organization in 1993.
Garbage.
So, again, relatively new, as I called him, new kid on the block from a religious standpoint. But again, we are continuing our Cause of the Week campaign. This week's cause is an organization called Safe Passage. You can check them out at their website, safepassagefoundation.org. They are a nonprofit that provides resources, support, and advocacy for youth raised in restrictive, isolated, or high-demand communities, often referred to as cults by general society. So, again, Safe Passage Foundation, you can check them out on their website, safepassagefoundation.org. Or you can join us as well in our Cause of the Week campaign by checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/STFtalk. Thanks to those that have decided to support us on Patreon thus far. We really appreciate it.
Feels nice.
Yeah, it's always good to talk about some of these causes and get their names out there a little bit. Yeah, it's awesome. So, Scientology, your favorite topic.
Yeah, it's strange. And you said, like, they got fucking tax exempt status in 93. Like, how do you take a religion seriously if they actually just got started in 1993? Like, I figure that's like the line of like getting started when you get tax exempt status.
To be fair, they were fighting for their tax exempt status for a long time.
Yeah, because they're complete fucking garbage. That's why.
I think I'm gonna have to argue on the side of Scientology. I think in this episode.
No, you are not.
I think I'm gonna.
There's not a fuck chance in hell that you are arguing anywhere near the legitimacy of Scientology.
We have a branch of Scientology here in Charlotte.
Okay.
There's 80 members, and
Yeah?
I joined up last week.
Oh, yeah. I hope it was for recon for this episode, or otherwise this is probably going to be the last episode of the podcast.
So let me enlighten you.
Okay, go ahead.
You heathen on Scientology.
All right.
The word Scientology comes from the Latin prefix scio, meaning knowing, and the Greek suffix logos, meaning study. So Scientology is the study of knowledge.
Yeah, bullshit. It's fake knowledge. Fake knowledge.
It draws on the principles of mathematics, nuclear physics. It's this new religion.
That's not.
We have practical solutions to real-life problems.
Such as?
Anything. Scientology solves all problems.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So basically there's this, what they believe their body of knowledge extends from certain fundamental truths. Prime among those are man is an immortal spiritual being. Okay. Man's capabilities are unlimited.
Okay, that's false. But go
Man is basically good.
Nope.
Spiritual salvation depends upon themselves. And attainment of brotherhood with the universe.
What the fuck does that even mean? Honestly, like, is that just like we're all one? We're all one piece?
The ultimate goal of Scientology is true spiritual enlightenment and freedom for all.
No. None of that is even real. Adam, none of that even makes any sense.
You need to have an open mind here.
I have an open mind. I have the openest of minds. So open that most things just escape. That's how open it is. just leave me. I don't even know anything. But this is just Scientology, and for some fucked up reason, we should donate $1. I will, every time I use fuck in this episode, I will donate $1 to our cause of the week, because it's going to be an enormous amount, because the fuckery that is Scientology, of the basis, I mean, you can even go to like.
Oh no! You almost go ahead. Just finish that thought. You were going to say it.
I was going to say what?
You were going to say fuck again.
I'm going to save my $1. I'm going to backload the fucks. But if you look at the beginning of how it got started, how Scientology got started, and then where it is today, nothing has changed. It's all fucking stupid. It is all made up. It's all
okay. Well, I respect your opinion.
Okay, don't even try to negate what I'm saying, Adam.
But I think there may be some listeners out there that aren't familiar with the wonder that is Scientology. So we should probably proceed a little bit into some of their ideology and background before you start bashing them.
Yeah, well, get your fucking slobber catchers ready, because you're about to listen to some stupid ass made up shit.
So, as I was saying, Scientology is basically knowing how to know. Okay?
Oh, okay, good one.
And so you want to be able to find your truth. Okay? You are not your body. You have a body.
Tell my fucking body that.
You are not your mind, although you have a mind. Your body and mind are tools. Okay? You are a thetan.
I don't even know what that means.
A
so
thetan.
I can't be one.
A thetan is an immortal spiritual being.
No, I'm gonna die. We've talked about that.
And Scientology has these 8 dynamics. Okay, there's stuff like self, sex and family, group, mankind, life forms, what they call mest, matter, energy, space and time, spiritual dynamic, and then infinity, which is knowing and understanding of the supreme being or creator.
I know you guys can't see this right now, but Adam's his body language and his motions is trying to like set this wizard mood as he talks of this this science fiction-y made up world of smoke and mirrors. You're like a magician right now, Adam. But keep going.
Much of the work, if not all, within Scientology is based on the premise that all of your experiences are stored as pictures in what they call your analytical mind. These pictures are basically like exact replicas, and because the brain is more powerful than any computer. Okay, so you have the 2 parts of your brain, the analytical mind and the reactive mind. Okay, so in the analytical mind, you have all these exact pictures of shit. In the reactive mind, that's
literal pictures of shit?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You heard me correctly.
It sounds like we're talking about Scientology.
In the reactive mind, that's where all of the bad things that have happened are stored. And your reactive mind is the source of all of your unexplained fears, nightmares, and insecurities. So that's why Scientology can help you with any problem, because it's all just stored in your reactive mind, and they have a special technique called auditing that can allow you to free all of this negative shit from your reactive mind.
I like it.
Are you intrigued?
Shit. No. You have not convinced me. How much do I have to pay to get into Scientology?
Oh, not a lot. Just a nominal fee for the first session, and then slowly escalating prices.
Okay. Depending on how successful the auditing is.
But basically, so again, the principles, analytical mind, reactive mind, very important to Scientology. And again, there's this auditing concept. So they have this process where they're trying to help individuals rid themselves of any of their spiritual disabilities or any of these negative thoughts. And they use something that they call an e-meter. Okay? You know what an e-meter is?
That's what I read all of my books on now.
An e-meter? No,
yeah.
I don't think you do.
Oh, that's an e-reader. Sorry.
An e-meter is like these. It's basically 1/3 of a lie detector, and it has these like metal tubes that you hold on to, like cow udders.
Yeah, like that game where you get shocked, and then you see who can hold on to it the longest.
Kind of. You hold these little things.
It's that game, Adam. That's what they did. They just took that game and said, "This is gonna cure you."
You hold these little things, and they send a small electrical impulse into your hands, basically, and that electric shock, runs through your body, and it picks up how much of the electrical force, your body absorbs or conducts or whatever. And they use this e-meter for these auditing sessions. And the auditing itself is not meant to cure anything, but it's meant to help the auditor find all of these bad thoughts. And this service is a main part of Scientology that the followers pay for, sometimes up to hundreds of dollars an hour. It's a very core principle of Scientology.
I'm sorry, you may have seen me taking a nap during this bullshit that you're speaking right now, but I'm
Come on, man.
now. Go ahead. You didn't make this up, so you don't have anything to defend or feel bad about. There's not much that you've spoken to so far. I appreciate the history for, as you said, for those of that are going to feel enlightened by this. But continue. I just didn't want you to think that I wasn't listening.
So the way that this is working is they believe that these negative thoughts in your reactive mind kind of like block the electrical impulse. So they'll ask you questions like, tell me about this negative experience in your life, when Adam made fun of you in 3rd grade, Chase.
How much time do we have?
And depending on how much negative thoughts you have, the electricity will get blocked and the meter will show as blocked. And the portion, the idea is you want to be clear. So you want to have all these negative thoughts gone. So when they find these negative thoughts, they'll continue to ask questions. It's kind of like if you're going to a psychologist or something, basically. And you talk about all this negative shit in your life, and the auditor's making all these notes, writing down all this crap about you, which probably becomes important later and when we discuss Scientology. But the point is, this auditing process, talk about lots of bad shit in your life, and it's supposed to make you feel better.
Wow.
Essentially.
That's really compelling stuff. I mean, talk about the bad things that's happened to you and feel better. Grab onto these two little dick-looking things and talk about your problems, and it'll make you feel better. None of this is based on anything, first of all.
What do you mean?
Let's just not forget the creator of all of this, Adam, that he has there's no scientific backing of any of this stuff that you just spewed about.
What are you talking about? This is called Scientology.
Yeah, well...
How is it not scientific? It's called Scientology, Chase.
I'm just saying, if you look at and you didn't even, for some reason, you skipped past, maybe because you are a Scientologist, but for some reason you skipped past just who created Scientology, who created all of this wizardry.
We're gonna get to the great profound LRH, L. Ron Hubbard.
All right, okay.
We're gonna get to him.
Making sure we don't skip over that, because I feel like what you just said, without giving context that it's complete bullshit because it was created by somebody that had no idea who the fuck was what they were even fucking doing anyways. I think you should probably lead with caveat to all of this shit. This was started by somebody that wrote books about none of this, and it was set up by a lunatic. And then go into that next part.
So because someone writes books, they can't start a religion? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I actually feel like that. That's a pretty. I mean, I didn't think about it like that until now, but yeah, I pretty. If you write, let's use Ender's Game as a. I mean, we both have an affinity for Ender's Game, right?
Yeah, it's a great book.
Let's say that Orson Scott Card creates a religion based off of the stuff that he's written about, or
praise Lord
the
Ender.
the stuff that he thinks that he knows. Let's make that a new rule, that if you are a science fiction writer, you can't start a religion. Let's across the board, before we go on with this episode, say that no new religions. There are no. There's
Why?
no, because you can't start a religion.
You can. They had to start somewhere.
They started thousands of years ago, not millions of years ago.
So you're saying if
dinosaurs didn't start religions.
If a religion didn't start a long time ago, that it can't be legitimate? That's complete.
Name one religion outside of Scientology, a legitimate religion that has started in recent times.
I don't need to name one, but if I came up with one now and it was real, profound, it should be. I should be allowed to practice it.
Do you want me to talk about this now, or do you want me to talk about this later? About what a religion is.
Go ahead. Tell me what is a religion?
A religion is something that is based in society that people grow up with, that people have. There's a foundation in your life that religion has been a part of, that has shaped your soul, your life, your parents' life, your grandparents' life. The whole being that you are is based on that religion.
Okay. So if we start enderism right now, we can, all the little children that we have, Ellie and Ollie, we can raise them in enderism, and they can grow up with it, and that meets your definition.
Enderism is a cult, first of all. If we start it right now, and we get little kids to join Adam, it's a cult.
So now you're saying that any religion that has little children is a cult? I don't understand your arguments here.
And let me fucking caveat this all with, I don't even believe in, this is going to make me sound like some sort of antichrist or some sort, but I think religion as a whole is a fakakta concept that is a flawed premise to begin with, and then you add Scientology into the same vein as a religion, and I feel like Scientology is fucking bull dick. And then you look at, if you compare it to the same thing that is a religion of Catholicism or Buddhism or something like that. I guess Buddhism is more of a mindset. For those of you that think Buddhism is a religion, we can talk later. But I guess you're a little bit more simple minded than me. But if we're going to talk, look,
wow, you're really offending a lot of people here already. I'm just
saying, if the validity of Scientology fits in a religion,
it is a religion. It's recognized by the IRS.
You're discounting all the rest of the religions, and therefore, since I discount religions anyways, I have to discount Scientology based off the fact that it's a religion. But Scientology also carries, it's like the dummy of religions. It's like the slobber cloth of religions. I told you this was going to be a rant episode. We haven't even started. We're 20 minutes in.
I know. So you brought up the creator, the founder, the profound LRH, L. Ron Hubbard. So I guess we should talk a little bit about him. So again, Scientology was started by this guy named L. Ron Hubbard. He, fun fact, holds the Guinness Book of World Records for number of books published. Just a genius, profound genius here.
Yeah.
He was born in Nebraska in 1911, and he spent some time in Montana. That's where he grew up, and he was like a Navy child, and he moved around, spent some time in Asia as well, in the South Pacific in the 1920s. He ultimately joined the Marine Corps himself. As we'll talk about, he has quite an affinity for at least the Navy as well. But he was an officer as well in the Navy during World War II. He commanded a couple ships, but he was removed from command both times. He spent a lot of time as well in the hospital during his military career. After the war, he actually moved to California, lived with a guy named Jack Parsons. Do you know who he was?
Yeah, he's on The Big Bang Theory, isn't he?
No.
Oh.
No, it's Jim Parsons.
Oh. Jack Parsons had something to do with the rocket program, didn't he?
Probably not. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I guess in my notes he does say he's an engineer, but he was also...
I might be making that up.
He was also an occultist. So he...
No, he does. No, they made a fucking show about him, Adam. I think it's on that CBS thing that you have to pay for. Hold on.
You're still thinking about Jim Parsons.
No,
CBS,
no.
Bang Bang Theory.
No, Jack Parsons.
Yeah, you're talking rocket scientist.
He's a
on
rocket
CBS.
engineer. Yeah.
You're talking about Jim Parsons, Sheldon.
No,
Sheldon
no,
Cooper.
it's the paid version of CBS that nobody watches.
CBS All Access.
Yeah, CBS All Access. But he was a big guy at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Yeah,
Okay.
I was right.
Well, he was also an occultist and a follower of the fucked up dude Aleister Crowley. And so L. Ron Hubbard moved in with Jack Parsons and kind of stole his girlfriend, ultimately married her, and he worked with Jack Parsons on something they called Babylon Working, which was this sex magic ritual that was intended to summon an incarnation of this demon goddess Babylon. Basically, like in 1946, they tried to summon this sex goddess to further their sex magic. They basically wanted to impregnate this demon goddess and bring forth the Antichrist.
Who doesn't?
And there was this guy named Richard Metzger that described this ritual, I think, fairly well. So let me describe it for you in his words.
Okay.
Parsons used his magical wand to whip up a vortex of energy so the elemental would be summoned. Okay?
Ooh.
Do you know what that means?
No.
So basically that's a fancy way of saying Parsons jerked off in the name of spiritual advancement, while Hubbard scanned the astral plane for signs and visions. So he used his magical wand, right?
Don't make that motion. I don't understand. What are we talking about?
We're talking about L. Ron Hubbard.
You just were talking about jerking off.
Yeah, I'm trying to describe what L. Ron Hubbard did in his middle life. He was trying to summon demons and stuff before he discovered the profound Scientology.
So he was jerking off Jack Parsons and then started Scientology.
Technically, Jack Parsons was jerking off himself, and L. Ron Hubbard was searching the astral plane. But you know.
Okay, this sounds like this. Okay, and we're done here. Scientology is a bunch of shit. We just proved it it was started by a guy that was jerking off, and the other guy was going, "Ooh, look at this thing! Look at this pretty plane." And that's how Scientology got started, and now everybody sucks.
But so basically, after this kind of weird occult period, L. Ron Hubbard had some money troubles. He worked up some different kind of money-making schemes. He was a bit of a con man, I guess you would say.
Like Scientology.
He had some cons involving yachts and some things to try to get money. He even tried to write to the VA to increase his veteran pension. Talked about how, his time in the war, caused him some psychiatric issues that he needed some help with. He had suicidal inclinations. His money troubles ultimately led him to get arrested for theft. But, shortly after that, he calmed down and he wrote this book, this profound work called Dianetics.
Before we go into Dianetics,
yeah,
you missed a couple of his quotes that are openly out there that you can go research. Do you want me to read you a couple?
Only if they put LRH in a good light.
Okay. Well, we're done here. One of his quotes, this is from November 7th, 1948. "You don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion." This one's from the Los Angeles Times, August 27th, 1978, about 30 years later, pretty much.
You're skipping ahead.
"Writing for a penny a word is ridiculous. If a man really wanted to make $1 million, the best way to do it would be to start his own religion." As said again in 1980.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead.
Okay, I'm just saying.
So because
I just want to make sure that we have those quotes going forth in people's mind as we talk about this.
So what? He said that you can make money as a religion. What does that have to do with anything?
Okay, continue on.
So he wrote this book called Dianetics, which was essentially became the basis for Scientology. It's like essentially like the equivalent of the Bible, I guess, from a Christian, or the Quran from a Muslim perspective. It's that type of work for those Scientologists.
For those of you that are keeping track, Adam just compared Dianetics to the Quran and or the Bible.
Well, yeah,
But
it's a
continue on.
holy work. A holy
Continue on.
work.
Continue on.
This Dianetics work was, described all of these psychiatric techniques, talked about, this reactive type of mind stuff that we were talking about before. It was rejected, in all fairness, by a lot of psychiatric journals and rebranded as science fiction. But, potato, right? So, yeah, the Dianetics ultimately was expanded upon to kind of put more in a spiritual tone to really develop this concept of Scientology. And some would say, like Chase, that this was done as a money-making scheme.
I don't think it was only a money-making scheme. I think it was a power and money-making scheme. But who am I?
So he started Scientology, from this ideology and grew it to what it is today. There's about 50,000 people that practice Scientology. Yeah. The end, right? It's great. Let's go join.
Please let it be the end. Jesus Christ. It's just, I hope that if you had no idea what Scientology was before this, or LRH before this, and you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, the government of the United States recognizes this as a tax-exempt religion type thing. What are we doing here? Honestly, what are we doing here? Let's go start a fucking religion and make some goddamn cash, become freaking gods. Because anybody can do it, Adam. L. Ron Hubbard is a
genius.
Creep. He's a creep. He's a guy that wrote subpar science fiction. You don't become the person who nobody remembers. Nobody knew before you just mentioned that, Adam, that L. Ron Hubbard holds the record for most books ever published. You know who publishes the most books? The person who sucks the most at writing books, because they don't fucking put any thought in it. He just fucking writes books, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, I suck. I suck as a writer. Let me write this stupid-ass fucking psychiatry book, which I know nothing about, but I've written some science fiction, which might match up.
You know who else has a fuckload of books? Stephen King. Do you see a shitty author, too?
No, but he also didn't start a fucking religion.
True.
That
we know of.
I'm saying L. Ron Hubbard had no business even starting Scientology. The only reason that he started Scientology and did any of this was because he was a two-bit author to begin with, wasn't making enough money. The science fiction world wasn't giving him the power that he wanted. So he decided to start his own fucking religion, quote-unquote, based off of his internal mind, his fucked up internal mind.
Okay, so you say this is all science fiction, right?
I would say this is mostly stranger than fiction.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So wait till you hear this origin story and tell me afterwards
that this background music
that this is science fiction. Okay.
I will tell you. I will tell you. I will tell you right now that I will tell you afterwards that this is science fiction.
And I will tell you before I tell you the story that this is what the Church of Scientology generally accepts as truth, okay?
And I will tell you before you tell me that I'm going to tell you.
So let me tell you. So, intelligent life exists throughout the universe and has for millions of years. Galactic overlord Xenu, okay?
Xenu. Mm-hmm.
He is very important, okay? So, This guy, Xenu, directly influenced how humanity has developed on Earth, okay? However, this information is only available to Scientologists once you get up high enough, you get to learn this story, okay? So 75 million years ago, Xenu headed the Galactic Federation, okay, which was an organization of 76 planets that existed for 20 million years, okay? The planets were suffering a tremendous problem with overpopulation. This was like Avengers, all right, Thanos, basically. Xenu had a very Thanos-like approach to this. He wanted to kill lots of people. So he gathered a lot of the large number of the population, he killed them, and he froze their souls. And then he sent those frozen souls to the prison planet Tegiak, which we now know as Earth. The Thetans, or the souls, were left in volcanoes on Earth, and then they dropped some nuclear bombs in the volcanoes, exploded the souls. The souls then went out into the world and Earth and went into the humans. And that is why we are all Thetans today, because of the great Xenu. Tell me that's science fiction.
I feel like you just took a big old dump in my brain.
You know, it's also important to note that a lot of the planets of the Galactic Federation eventually rebelled against Xenu. They fought him for many years. They captured him and imprisoned him in a barren desert planet. And he's still there. He's still alive. One day, hopefully, he will return to Earth.
You know what's more concerning about somebody starting this religion? Is that people follow this religion, right? I mean, that story is literally like, you could have fooled me into thinking like that was the new Star Wars movie. Honestly, like, the whole thing is just completely bogus.
I mean, is it really that much different than, say, some all-powerful dude created the universe within 7 days, and then some other dude collected 2 animals of each type, put them on a boat because their world was flooded for 40 days or whatever? It's pretty much the same thing.
Touche. Well, look, I think you're being facetious, but I will agree with you in the fact that equal amounts of each story are bogus. I think what our biblical story has going for it is that at least it is a like it involves humans and animals and Earth and
Xenu and Earth. Did you not listen to the story?
Things that actually could exist. Again, touche. Each are equally as crazy in my mind. I just think that the Xenu, and if you're talking about planets and essentially aliens and freezing people and sending them to Earth, that to me, let this be a lesson to anybody listening that you can't wonder how Trump won anymore.
Why is that?
Because people believe this, Adam. They will believe the most bullshittiness thing in the whole entire world. All you got to do is pretend you know something. And that's what L. Ron Hubbard did. That's what anybody in history has ever done that has convinced anybody to do something really stupid.
So, well, 2 things. So one, there is a really great depiction of Xenu in South Park, season 9, episode called Trapped in the Closet. You should...
Not a sponsor.
You should go watch it. It's actually really, really good.
Isn't that the R. Kelly thing too? Trapped in the Closet?
Yeah, R. Kelly's in it too.
Okay.
Yep. But it's really good.
I'll watch it.
But so we talked about, so obviously this is what Scientologists believe. And you only learn about Xenu after you get high enough in the group, you spend enough time studying. So how would you feel if you went into this group and you bought into the kind of self-help aspects and all the auditing, and you felt like you actually believed it in this kind of world where you could get behind it, you felt like it was helping you, and then you get told this story that now you're expected to believe about Xenu. I mean, how would you feel?
Do you want to talk about going back to the last episode of near-death experiences, where your whole life flashes in front of you, and you're like, "What am I?" First of all, who is the guy that you get to pull back the curtain to the wizard when you get to that level, and he tells you the story of Xenu, and he's I picture him dressed in a crown and just this really he's got a big what are those things, an orb type thing. What is a staff with an orb on the top? What are those things called?
A magical staff.
Okay, magical staff. He's got a magical staff, and he's telling the lights there's just a spotlight shining down on him. And he's telling you the exact same story you just told all of us. I would literally just blow my brains out. And how and off of the stories that I've read, you have to pay a tremendous amount of money and dedicate a tremendous amount of time to get to that level.
Yeah.
To know. And honestly, I just Wikipedia'd it and saw that story, and I didn't have to pay any money and do anything. So jokes on those guys too, that they have to get up to that level to learn about that. Yeah, the whole thing, and then again, let's talk about what a religion is, right? Because the whole religion is supposed to be foundational. It's supposed to impact people's lives. It's supposed to be a model for what a framework for what your life should be, right? Like if you follow the Bible, it pretty much lays out like, be kind, don't whatever the fuck the 10 Commandments are, whatever the fuck the Bible says. It's basically, I know as much that it's a framework for life. It tells you how you should live your life.
So does Dianetics. Go read Dianetics.
Why all this secrecy though? There's so much secrecy. It's not telling you how to lay out your life. It's telling you, for for 3 payments of $60,000, we'll tell you about Xenu, and you can go home and blow your brains out because it's a ridiculous story. For the low price of $80,000, you can learn about how we're gonna have you hold these fake metal rods and get rid of all your negative thoughts. Like there shouldn't be any secrecy in our religion because it is meant for the people. It is supposed to enhance your life, and in order to know that, you need to know about it. And the fact that Scientology, and I'm sure we'll go into this in a little bit, but the fact that Scientology keeps so much secret should wave the red flag for anybody and say, "Bah, this is not a religion."
Yeah, I mean you're right, and I've been obviously somewhat facetious in taking the position of Scientology. I'm kind of on the same page. I don't
I'm
agree
glad
with
you
any
made
of this.
that caveat because
I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thought.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. There's like there's 8 levels within Scientology, and it's kind of very secretive, as you talked about, as far as kind of what you unlock when you get to this kind of next level. This Xenu story happens around at level 3, but yeah, it's very secretive, and there's just a lot of shady shit around the group. So when you join Scientology, like if you're like the best and the brightest of Scientologists, you can join what they call the Sea Organization, which is a really fucked up group. Basically, they dress like a Navy officer, like so you get like a naval uniform. It's really weird. A lot of times, like parents that have gone into Scientology, they'll have their kids join the Sea Org because it's like the best way to get to the top of the Scientology organization. And you have to, when you join the Sea Org, you sign a 1 billion-year contract.
Yeah.
1 billion with a B.
Doesn't even make any sense.
Pledging
what is
pledging 1 billion years of your life to the Sea Organization.
That, again, it's just I'm glad you talked about that because it's a big part of it, but it's fucking bullshit. Move on. There's no such thing as a 1 billion-year contract.
Yeah, yes, there is. Let me read it to you.
I feel like that's what Tom Brady signed.
I, Chase Ferris, do hereby agree to enter into employment with the Sea Organization, and being of sound mind, do fully realize and agree to abide by its purpose, which is to get ethics in on this planet and the universe, and fully and without reservation subscribe to the discipline, mores, and conditions of this group and pledge to abide by them. Therefore, I contract myself to the Sea Organization for the next 1 billion years. Signed, Chase Ferris.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sign it. I mean, I'm going to fucking die. And they can sue me because I didn't hold up my end of the contract, I guess. I mean, it's just
if you join the Sea Org, you get paid to work for Scientology. Do you know how much you get paid if you're a member of the Sea Org?
It's probably low.
Yep. It's like 60 cents an hour.
Yeah, it's like North Korea. You're working for North Korea. That's North Korea.
But I mean, really, there's been lots of claims of abuse and obviously almost like slave labor in the Sea Org. L. Ron Hubbard, had Sea Org members. They actually traveled around in boats, wearing these Navy uniforms, obviously.
Yeah. Well, to that point too, like they used to sail around in all of these yachts, but then like ports wouldn't accept his fleet anymore, so they like didn't have anywhere to go. They would just like ban his fleets from being able to dock anywhere.
Yeah, I mean this group is, like I said, within Scientology, it's a really big deal, but I mean it just looks stupid. I mean, have you seen some of these pictures of of the guys like, or guys and girls like in these Navy looking uniforms? It looks like a military picture, but it's Scientology.
Do you think this is like him like acting out because he didn't get like the ranking that he wanted to in the military?
Yeah.
Like he just created a force that he can like he's the general of.
Yeah,
basically
150% for sure.
he's got like small man syndrome where he just like overcompensates for everything. Like, oh, I can't get captain in the military. I'm gonna go create my own military.
Fuck you. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So obviously there were lots of claims again of abuse and different things against the Sea Org, L. Ron Hubbard specifically as well. His wife filed divorce from him in 1951, accused him of, sleep deprivation, beating her, strangling her, kidnapping, extortions.
Is that a hard word for you to pronounce? Or did it make you sad? Or that was like a minute pause between that word.
Fuck you, dude. But basically, L. Ron Hubbard had a lot of claims against him. And he ultimately died. He's not alive anymore. And another guy took over in his place to run Scientology named David Miscavige.
Yeah.
Who is an equally shit-tastic person.
I would say so here's the comparison to Miscavige to L. Ron Hubbard, okay? L. Ron Hubbard is a lunatic that needs to be like psychologically examined and put away. Miscavige is I feel like just the look of him, he looks like a fucking serial killer.
He does.
Like, he looks like every guy that you've ever seen, like has like 17 bodies hidden in his basement. But he is also just a living embodiment of what a bloody, juicy turd is. Like, he is just a complete waste of life. This guy is. If you read up on this guy, it's actually much more like he is much more of a concern for me that he is of the same species as me.
Yeah, and so he kind of doubled down on this strategy of trying to recruit celebrities. So this is probably how most people have probably heard of Scientology, because there's not actually a ton of people that are Scientologists. So there are just many famous celebrities that are Scientologists, so that's probably where a lot of people have heard it. So his strategy is to recruit all of these famous people and then have the famous people essentially be ambassadors for Scientology. Obviously, the most famous two Scientologists are probably Tom Cruise and John Travolta.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other ones as well. One kind of, I guess she's relatively famous, Leah Remini, who was on King of Queens. She was a big supporter of Scientology, but then left in like 2013 or something like that.
You guys, some listeners may know her as Carrie Heffernan. That's how
from King of Queens. That's what I said.
That's who I refer to her as. I don't know her real name.
But she actually has a show on A&E that you could check out about leaving Scientology, and people that have, I guess, survived Scientology, were in it for a long time and then left. Scientology is David Miscavige has really taken a hardline stance against people that speak out against Scientology. That's why I mentioned earlier, if we don't do an episode next week, it's because we were offed by David Miscavige. But you have to disconnect from family members if they're not Scientologists, if they speak badly. You get labeled as a suppressive person if you are not a supporter of Scientology. There's just a really that cult-like mentality. They want to keep you within the group. They don't want any too outside the box thinking. I guess they want kind of that group think type of thing to be perpetuated.
And that matches up to a lot of different religions, right? Like there's a lot of group think in a lot of other religions. Man, this episode is going to paint me as just the complete antichrist this is going to be the you're going to be on a podcast with the Antichrist after this episode. But I think that like that sort of that group think is very similar. I mean, that's sort of in parallel to Catholicism and a lot of other religions as well, right? I mean, that doesn't seem too far out of the ordinary. I think Scientology still takes it to the extreme.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
But,
I think you're right. I don't disagree with you, but it feels like Scientology like is really like next level with that kind of stuff. It's really, really extreme. Definitely approaching cult-like approach to it. I'm not religious as we've described, but I'm not going to say that, Catholicism is a cult. I don't believe that, but definitely, Scientology is much more on that spectrum than most of the common religions, I guess.
And it should be known too that David Miscavige, is that how we're agreeing to say it? Is Miscavige?
Miscavige, yeah.
Miscavige. Shelley Miscavige, who is David's wife, right? The leader of Scientology. She has not been seen in public since 2017. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Over 10 years.
11, 11, 12 years now.
And over 10 years, exactly. Despite several missing persons reports that have actually been filed, police have investigated, deemed the reports unfounded, but they're not able to talk about where they saw her. But yeah, she's been missing for 10 years. So if you watch or follow any of these stories about some of the Scientologists that leave, there's all kinds of stories about the abuse, kind of isolation where they'll put people in what they call the hole, allegedly, where they starve you and deprive you of all kinds of basic stuff. So yeah, I mean, it feels like to me she's either dead or, in one of these types of places, because Leah Remini has said that she was kind of disagreeing with David Miscavige on some different things, according to her.
Yeah, it's just I've watched those shows of like the cults where like the kids get kidnapped and then they go, like, I think they're probably on A&E too. Like A&E probably has a nice little corner of the world where they're broadcasting all these shows. But
Cult Corner.
Like where they like get kidnapped or brainwashed and then they like go and live on this compound and then people go and try to rescue them from there. But Scientology sounds very much like that. Or it also sounds the exact, you could literally say Kim Jong-un instead of David Miscavige and it would be the same situation. Honestly.
Yeah,
like,
sure. Yeah.
Starving people, hiding people away, not being able to talk to your family for a long period. Like you're vowing you're vowing your life to the regime instead of your family. Like the whole thing is very dictatorial, like completely just, it's very North Korea-esque. We should have played that game. Is it Scientology or North Korea?
Exactly. And by the way, your fuck ratio has really dropped off here. You need to step it up. We need to get that donation level up here. But
all right, I will. Trust me. Go on to the next topic. We'll get it going.
So one thing I want to make sure we circle back on to talk about is, you were alluding to it there around the auditing and the amount of money that Scientology generates, and potentially have been starting for money purposes, but Scientology does a tremendous job at generating money. So if you actually look at the top 5 wealthiest religious organizations, Scientology is in the top 5, which is really surprising since they have only 50,000 members. Okay.
Yeah, but is it? I believe like if you're a Mormon, you have to dedicate a certain amount of money to the church.
Yeah. So the right? the number one religious organization from a wealthiest standpoint is the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, because you have to dedicate a ridiculous amount of your actual like pay to the church.
But they have 16 million members. Okay, so there's 320 members of the LDS Church for every one Scientologist. But if you did a wealth per follower ratio, it's just insane. Like how much money Scientology generates for the number of members they have. They are so loaded.
But is that a good ratio, or like is that I don't know what to make of that.
Because, I mean, as a religion, you're supposed to be like helping people, right? I mean, like helping your followers and like bettering their lives and that kind of stuff, right? So to me, it's not a good thing that a religious organization has a shitload of money, right? You should have like no money, right? You're a not-for-profit. You should be taking any money you have and helping people, helping your followers. That's what you should be doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's not go off. You're asking me. You're baiting me. You're baiting me right now to just go off on a tangent because I completely agree with you. Before Scientology, before we made this, you could make the argument like, how come the Catholic Church has so much money? How come the Mormon Church has so much money? Why do they have all of this money? And you're absolutely right. Why the fuck don't they give this money away to places or people that actually need it? Because this is all the I can't continue to go on this pace in this podcast because I'm literally going to be a very, very hated man.
Well, start saying some fucks,
this.
Man. Come on.
But yeah, well, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I put out a bad podcast, and I at least said 42 fucks and donated $42. But
not even close. Not even close.
I know. I'll get there. But I don't understand, and I think with at least like some of these older, more established religions like Mormonism and Catholicism and whatever other religions there are.
Those are the only two religions,
Well, you couldn't last episode. You couldn't think of other animals other than humans and other things. You finally came up with elephant after that, but you couldn't. So forgive me for not being able to think of many religions right now. But I feel like you at least have some sense of what Catholicism and well-established religions do with their money, to some extent. I still think it's a huge. I mean, we're talking billions and billions of dollars for like surplus that are just in the coffers. Why do you need that money? Why aren't you giving it back to your people or donating it or whatnot? But Scientology, there isn't even any evidence that they do anything with any of that money besides better Scientology.
Well, yeah, right? What they do is they buy buildings in like every city and put Scientology on the roof. And then they throw Tom Cruise elaborate parties and spoil the shit out of him and make him like basically the king.
And then they buy compounds where they can do all these dirty things without anybody caring.
Allegedly. But yeah.
No, they fucking do. It's not allegedly. They fucking do.
Scientology is I guess, unique from a religion standpoint because they don't actually force anyone to believe anything per se. They really believe that every individual should think for themselves. And in Scientology, what is true for the individual is only what they have observed personally and know is true for them. And so it is different in that sense that there's not like outside of Xenu, there's not really like this kind of commandments or huge list of shit that you have to believe. You could essentially whatever is true to you, is what they support, I guess. So it is kind of unique, but it kind of feels more made up than anything, right? Because it's just like, oh, well, you can believe whatever you want. That's
yeah. You can believe anything you want, but here's the backstory as to why we're doing this, and it involves multiple planetary travel, frozen people coming to Earth, and a guy named Xenu. What do you think about the attack the attacker policy?
So this is the policy that when anyone says stuff negative about Scientology, rather than like defending Scientology, you just attack the person, right?
Yeah. Do you know what the 4 staples of that policy are?
No. Go ahead and tell me.
Staple number 1, spot who is attacking us. Know thy enemy, basically.
Okay.
Number 2, start investigating them promptly for felonies or worse using own professionals, not outside agencies. Number 3, double curve our reply by saying we welcome an investigation of them. Oh, that's so tricky of them that they do that. Number 4, this one is just brutally worded. Start feeding lurid, blood, sex, crime, actual evidence on the attackers to the press. I don't even like.
Yeah, and so that's a good
scary.
That's a good point. I mean, I think that if you read some of these accounts of people that have left Scientology and then talk about what they, their allegations against Scientology, usually Scientology will do just what you're describing and attack that person, and they go back to a lot of these auditing sessions that we talked about earlier, where auditor will take copious amounts of notes. So basically, you've revealed all of your deepest, darkest secrets and shit during these auditing sessions, and then they retain it. This is not like
a closed session.
Yeah, it's not like you're confessing in a whatever they call that little.
It's not doctor-patient confidentiality.
Yeah, there's no confidentiality here. I mean, they write all this shit down, and they keep all these records and files and all kinds of stuff, allegedly. And then when you attack Scientology, after you leave, they just basically go read through all your file. What's all the worst shit we can come up with, and then throw it out there. It's a really, like, in some ways, brilliant system if you are trying to be a fuckwad. I mean, it's perfect. You get everyone to reveal all their secrets. You have them by the balls. You get all your money. If they try to leave, you just reveal all their shit.
Are you saying allegedly on all of this so you don't get murdered?
Yeah, or sued. Yeah.
Would you like me to do a quick reading of a letter from the official communications of L. Ron Hubbard, the Office of Policy, from February 25th, 1966?
Sure, that sounds just riveting.
It ties back to attack the attacker policy.
Okay.
It says, "Don't ever tamely submit to an investigation of us. Make it rough on attackers all the way.
That's what she said.
You can get reasonable about it and lose. Sure, we break no laws. Sure, we have nothing to hide. But attackers are simply anti-Scientology propaganda agencies so far as we are concerned. They have proven that they want no facts and will only lie no matter what they discover. So banish all ideas that any fair hearing is intended and start our attack with the first breath. Never wait. Never talk about us, only them. Use their blood, sex, crime to get headlines. Don't use us. I speak from 15 years of experience in this. There has never yet been an attacker who is not reeking with crime. All you had to do was look for it, and the murder would come out." That's fucking. That is not written. Think of that as
You're having
Jesus
a stroke?
writing that. I am. I told you I was going to fucking have a heart attack during this episode. No, just think of it in the same vein. Think of Jesus writing that, or Muhammad, or somebody else, whoever else started religions or is a deity, and think of them writing that. How just sadistic that letter is, and should be absolute proof that if this sort of stuff is happening in any organization, if I got a letter from my boss, then this was like, no, this should not be acceptable in any organization. And the fact that this exists in the organization now, and people are paying thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to be a part of this organization, should just fuck our lives up, that we are a part of the same species as people that are going with this. To me, it just is unbelievable that people can look at this and say, here's 80 grand. I want to learn about Xenu.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's like been some really top level, like right hand guys that have left Scientology, and some of their interviews are really interesting, assuming you believe what they're saying.
What, like what?
I mean, just like the one of the, you're talking about this attack the attacker stuff, and like basically one of the guys that left a couple years ago was like the main guy that was responsible for attacking all the people that were attacking. And so he describes all of this type of shit that you're talking about on the stuff that he would do. There's like, he basically says he feels like shit now for all the crap that he did back then, and like all the stuff he denied. And I mean, it's really interesting. There's a good documentary on HBO as well, if you ever want to check that out. I don't remember what it's called, but if you look for Scientology on HBO, it's a pretty good documentary as well. But
sorry, I'm not rich. I don't have HBO.
Bullshit.
I don't have HBO.
You don't watch Game of Thrones?
No.
The fuck's wrong with you?
I don't have HBO. And I don't fucking watch TV. I finished Travelers. It was the last show that I fucking watched over the last 6 years.
Well, George R.R. Martin, the next the guy who wrote Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I know who wrote it.
Maybe he'll start a religion.
He probably could, though. That's the fucking thing of it all. Like, anybody can start a religion, and that's why Jonestown happened. That's why people get kidnapped and live their life and never learn how to read because they join these cults. And like, it's just this is a cult that celebrities join, and it makes it a religion. God, I'm gonna put that on a fucking T-shirt, Adam. Scientology, a cult that celebrities join, and that makes it a religion. On the back, that's gonna go on the back. It makes it a religion.
Why do you think this is a cult?
I think that sometimes with some policies or logic or thoughts, the line between cult and religion is very, very thin.
Okay.
So if you use that framework, okay, and that sometimes that line, even with solidified religions, is thin, and you look at Scientology, which is based off of literally nothing.
No, it's based off Dianetics.
Literally nothing. But okay, so let's say we base it off of Dianetics, right? Dianetics, when it came out, Adam, was like completely shit on by anybody that knew anything in life. It was poorly reviewed by the scientific, by the psychological community, by everybody. It was basically, they would say that it was everything in that book is made up, that there's no like psychological backing to anything in that book. Nothing makes sense. It's all basically L. Ron Hubbard writing a medical book based off of his science fiction background. Like he basically wrote like a made up thing, and then we based a religion off of a made up book, and now we have Scientology. But I think it's a cult because there's no basis of anything. At least with Catholicism or overarching religion as a whole, the sort of like the big religions, the religions that are based off the Bible and the Quran and all of that stuff, at least you have some sort of like historical like backing of that, where like there's stories to be told, there's things that have existed back in time where all of this sort of falls into place, and it all culminates into this big grandiose story. And then you have Scientology that's like, okay, I wrote 150 science fiction books. I'm going to write this fake book, and then I'm going to ask people to basically believe in Xenu. And it's literally the same thing that if you look at like any cult that has like had mass suicide, they're like, oh, they're going to come down and if we drink this juice, he said that we're going to be able to be sucked up into the spaceship and survive the apocalypse. It's literally the same stuff. It's under the guise of a religion. Somehow, in this episode, I have completely sold out religion and become a Democrat in this episode. But shame on our government for allowing this to be a tax.
Okay, so that's a fair comment about the IRS. And if you watch this documentary on HBO, they essentially will argue or or theorize, I guess, that the IRS basically succumbed to pressure because Scientology, what they did was they had basically as many of their followers as they could. They sued the IRS. So they had all of these lawsuits that was funded by the huge war chest of Scientology. We already established how much money they had. All of these lawsuits, they just flooded the IRS with lawsuits. And basically, the IRS was overwhelmed by all of these lawsuits. And
one time. Okay, that happens one time.
But they basically flooded them with lawsuits, and then they said, hey, we can make all these lawsuits go away if you give us this tax-exempt religious status. All these lawsuits will go away. And the director of the IRS at the time apparently felt like that was a good enough deal.
But why is it still happening? That's my question.
Why haven't they overturned it?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of act of Congress it takes to overturn a tax-exempt
overturn it. It's not hard. And it's not an act of Congress. The Congress doesn't give two fucks about tax-exempt status of anything.
Well, they give a lot of fucks about tax-exempt status because they don't collect taxes from tax-exempt organizations.
Yeah, but all nonprofits are tax-exempt. So it doesn't, like you're talking, Congress does not enforce the tax exempt status of nonprofits. It's the same. You can fill in the blank with nonprofits or religions or whatnot. It's a fucking cop out if the government says, well, we're not going to go back and look at this. That is a complete shit show that you are completely neglectful of our policies that are in place for people to pay taxes. You're an accomplice in all of this if you're not fucking paying any attention to what's happening. If you're not going to go back and audit them in the true sense of auditing and not the Scientology way of auditing, if you're not going to go back and audit them and say, this is fucking...
Hold those little fucking handles, man.
This is fucking bogus. You guys owe us all these taxes. You can't tell me that let's say 55,000 members, right? 55,000 members who are not all fucking wealthy and rich as fuck, right?
Probably just 80% of them.
You can't tell me that 55,000 lawsuits can defeat the fucking IRS. We have the treasury. We create money, Adam. Like, you can't tell me that's fucking, it's fucking bonkers.
I'm just telling you, that's what was theorized by this HBO documentary. So go watch it if you want to learn something.
I understand, but for all those government higher ups that are listening to this podcast right now, you're being derelict in your fucking duties if you're not looking at the tax exempt status, not only of Scientology, but anybody else who has tax exempt status that is acting a fool like fucking Scientology is. So go back and fucking look at. You're on furlough right now. You ain't got shit to do. Go back and look at this shit. Read some papers. Listen to this podcast, and you tell me that they still deserve tax exempt status.
All right, we've spent way too much fucking time talking about tax exempt status. That's
the people want to know.
You know, you gave me a lot of shit in the vampire episode for my definition of vampires and arguing that vampires exist. So I will just say that we talk about Scientology and a cult. Webster defines a cult as a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious.
Is that Webster's dictionary or Webster from the TV show?
Webster's dictionary.
Okay, just clarify.
So based on that definition, I think Scientology is 100% a cult. So just wanted to. You probably don't disagree with me on this definition, but wanted to at least make that point.
I mean, just this whole thing just bums me out. That's all. Like this stuff can still happen. Again, there's two places that you know that you can pretty much map out the Wikipedia. You could change the title of North Korea's Wikipedia page to Scientology, and it would read the exact same thing.
North Korea was founded by L. Ron Hubbard.
Pretty much. The story, it still could be the same fucking story. Adam, look, to that point, I know, again, you were joking, but North Korea writes its own fucking history, too. They wrote everything that has ever existed. They claim this false deity as well. They were set up the same way as fucking Scientology was, and they operate the same way, and it's literally Scientology equates to living in North Korea. If you join Scientology, you support North Korea, and you should probably be banned from the United States.
Allegedly.
Build that wall. Build that wall.
Another fun fact I thought I didn't mention about L. Ron Hubbard. Do you know what the L stands for?
Loser. Capital L.
No, it's his first name is Lafayette.
Lafayette. Yeah, I'd go by L too.
Lafayette Ron Hubbard.
Lafayette Ron Hubbard. Yeah, and again, it all goes back to the guy with a girly name like that. He created his own military. He dropped Lafayette and went by L. He needs this. He created this church so that people can look at him as some sort of god because his fucking name is Lafayette. He's never lived up to his standards. He's written the most science fiction books of all time. He's still not as well regarded as people that write one fucking science fiction book. So his whole life, he is just completely a waste of life. And then all of a sudden, he creates this thing. People follow. He's like, oh, I'll do this. This sounds fun. Let me grow this thing out into a piece of shit that it will be. And David Miscarriage can fucking hide his wife away for 11 years and nobody fucking cares, and we're going to fool the government into giving us tax exempt status so we don't have to pay shit. We could just sock away all this money and do whatever the fuck we want to. I'll show them.
Is that your final thought? That was a nice little wrap up. I mean, we've gone on for a while.
That was my I was becoming L. Ron Hubbard in my one man show.
It's weird to agree with you so wholeheartedly, but I pretty much do. I mean, to me, Scientology is definitely more akin to a cult than a religion. Totally feel like it was founded for money. You talked about some of the quotes from L. Ron Hubbard and some others there. And it's actually very, very successful at generating money from its followers. I mean, it's brilliant in some respects.
Don't use that term in regards to Scientology.
And I think that, I mean, everyone is entitled to believe what they want, but I mean, Scientology is not for me. But definitely what I can't get behind and support are the tons of these stories that are out there around abuse and misconduct and stuff like that. I mean, they're definitely not unique to Scientology. They exist in a lot of different religions. Totally, obviously don't support any of that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's more akin to a cult than a religion. Praise Xenu.
Praise Xenu.
Thanks a lot for listening. Stranger Than Fiction is the brainchild of Chase Ferris, Allison Davila, and me, Adam Davila. We would love to hear from you on one of our social media accounts. You can find us at Stranger Than Fiction Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or at STF Talk on Twitter, or check out our website, stftalk.com.